Morning, guys. It's Monday morning here in Rusty, Rhode Island, August 19th, 2024. So I just came in to get started on my, I decided I'm going to get this trim ready to install, even though I don't have the body ready yet, but I want to be able to get it out of the garage and have it ready. So these lead pieces, as you may recall, I made about 6 months ago, and they're meant to fill in the slots here where it's low, and my plan is to epoxy them into this area. So I had painted this with a primer, and I want to scratch it back down now. I didn't want it to rust, but I actually want to get back down to the metal in this area and guff it up real good, make sure that the epoxy sticks. So I'll be sanding on this for a little bit. Cheers. JB Weld is what I use. It's a 2-piece epoxy. And basically I'm going to clean all this up. Clean up the back of the lead. I'm going to take and cut some lines in here with a 36 grit so that once I set that down into the epoxy there, it'll stay fastened. Then I just have to take my file, once it's completely adhered, and just go over this to make sure it's level with the height of this. I'll put a little bit of primer on it and it'll be ready to install. I want to move them out into the garage, into my storage area and get them out of the garage. So it was raining so heavy last night, they got flooded in New York. We had, according to my rain meter, about 4 inches again. We've been getting like 4-inch downpours in a few hours this year. I'm not going to say I haven't seen it before. I have. And when I was younger, I remember having like wet year. It was so wet that the ground in my backyard was like a mush pit. Couldn't even walk back there without sinking to your ankles. I remedied a lot of that by putting a drainage system around my perimeter that takes it all down to the bottom of the property through piping. It took me a while. I dug some of it by hand, and I dug some of it some of it with a machine that I rented, a small machine to dig. But the bulk of it I dug by hand. I would wait until the ground was really wet and soft, and it was easy to dig then. It was like digging in sand, except for all the rock. I literally built another 40 feet of stone wall on the back side of my property with all the stone I took out of the ground. They were all big pieces of granite. So like I said, I've sanded this down. And I sanded this down, but I want to get it a little coarser than I have it now. I'm going to go get some 36 grit. The 36 grit now on the lead where the epoxy is going to touch it. Lead, when it's not pure, shoots out kind of a white colored dust. It's something in the impurities in it. And most lead is mixed with zinc now, especially for plumbing. Zinc, it's not even really lead anymore, they just call it lead. But that's you could probably see fits in there, like I say, to fill in these holes. When I cut these to a point, and then these are going to fill that in, and they're going to look like air ducts basically. The whole thing back then with the Apache was to give it that aircraft, that jet era look. That was, jets were new and they were hot, you know, and everybody wanted them. So I've got the first two sanded. I'm going to get the first two set in place, and then I'll work on the next two. Gonna only be a thin smear, so I'm probably mixing more than I need, but here's what it is. If it squishes out, it can be sanded off anywhere it squishes out. If it comes out the front at all, if it goes out the back, you'll never see it. This JB Weld, when I was a kid, we found this engine with a hole in the crank in the block. The piston rod had broke. It was a 5 horsepower horizontal shaft motor, and you know, we wanted it for a go-kart, so we used this JB Weld, drilled holes through the crank case and bolted a piece of metal over and used this JB Weld to seal it. We got we got a rod and a piston out of another motor that was a vertical shaft, but it still worked in the horizontal shaft motor. It was Frankenstein. We were kids. We got all our stuff out of the dump. We would go to the city dump and go through the metal pile, and if there was like a lawnmower, we found a few ride-on lawnmowers and we converted them into go-karts. No clutch, direct chain drive right off the motor. You just pull the cord and push at the same time and it would go. And then if you wanted to, we had a kill button, so at least, so you pulled on the string and it would pull the spark plug wire off. We built some really cool shit. We built a trike one time, and what would happen is we'd end up getting caught driving them on the road, and the cops would take them away, and then they'd go up for 30 days up to the police station, and then my dad would be like, "You're not going to get it, leave it there." So we had to build another one, and we did. We built a few using junk parts out of the dump. We used to go right after school. The dump would close at 3:30. We'd wait up behind the big sand dunes, looking over the top, waiting for the guy to lock the gate, and then we'd swoon down like the seagulls, man. First guy there would get the best pickings. There was a few of us going, so we'd all be running down the hill to get to the best pickings. Yeah, it was a different world back then. Different world. Different world altogether. Anything they told us not to do, don't go to the dump, we'd go to the dump. Don't go down to the construction pits, we'd go to the construction pits. They were better off not telling us not to do it. They were better off just not talking about it, maybe. Alright, so I had marked all these left and right, so I knew where they went, and I marked. If I didn't do that, because I'd be fumbling with them, but now because I marked it, I know where it's at, and I'm gonna clamp it down. Oh, that's not gonna work. Let's try it this way. When I went to clamp it down, it squished it out this way. That might not be the best idea. Maybe just let the gravity do it. Put the clamp on top for weight. It's probably the best way to do it. So you see what's going on here in Rusty, Rhode Island, guys. I diagnosed the water pump being bad. This is what I use. I plug one ear, and then I take this and I go around and listen to it. And when I got to the water pump, I could clearly see the water pump was bad. So, off to the parts store. Out from Rusty, Rhode Island, guys. Hope you're enjoying your day.